HOA Karen and fake HOA cops banned my boat, so I locked their marina. Welcome to HOA Tyrant Takedowns, where we expose power-hungry HOA boards and celebrate homeowners who fight for their rights. Today's story is a masterclass in standing your ground. One man, a 40-year-old sailboat tied to his late father's memory, and a ruthless HOA president who thought she could bully him out of his home. When they ordered Michael Thornton to remove his boat from his private dock, they didn't expect him to uncover a legal bombshell. He owned the only access to their precious community marina. With a fence, a stack of documents, and a neighborhood fed up with tyranny, Michael turned their own game against them, exposing a land grab scheme and collapsing an HOA empire. Picture Clearwater Shores, Oregon, 2024, a lakeside haven where cedar homes hug the shores of Clearwater Lake, their docks bobbing with boats under golden sunsets. Michael, a 55-year-old retired Navy engineer, bought his lakefront craftsman after losing his father, hoping to heal by sailing the Legacy, a weathered sailboat his dad built. It wasn't just a boat. It was a lifeline to memories of late-night talks and lessons on the tiller. But the HOA, led by Elizabeth Carver, a real estate mogul with a smile as sharp as her blazer, had other plans. Her notices called the Legacy an eyesore, demanding its removal with $200 daily fines. Why? Because her husband's development firm wanted Michael's land for a luxury resort. What Elizabeth didn't know was that Michael wasn't just a grieving son. He was a meticulous engineer with a knack for reading fine print. When he discovered his property included the marina's only land access, he didn't negotiate. He built a fence, locked it, and watched Elizabeth's gala fundraiser crumble as VIPs stood stranded. Her husband's shady deals unraveled. The HOA's finances came under scrutiny, and Clearwater Shores learned what happens when you push a man too far. This is, HOA ordered me to remove my boat, so I fenced off their marina. A tale of legacy, leverage, and justice that'll leave you cheering. Drop your HOA horror in the comments. Like, subscribe, and let's dive into Clearwater Shores' fight for freedom. Clearwater Shores, March 2024, was a postcard of tranquility. 50 homes, mostly retirees and professionals, lined the horseshoe-shaped shore of Clearwater Lake, their lawns manicured, their docks gleaming under Oregon's spring sun. Michael Thornton, 55, had called it home for 2 years, a refuge after his father's death from cancer in 2021. A retired Navy engineer, Michael was reserved but respected, often seen polishing the Legacy, a 28-foot sloop his father, Richard, had built in the 1980s. The boat's teak deck and Navy hull weren't flashy, but Michael kept it pristine, a floating memorial to his dad's love for open water. The HOA, Clearwater Shores Association, had been benign under its old president, a laid-back vet named Carl. But in January 2024, Elizabeth Carver, 48, a real estate developer with a penchant for power, took over. Her campaign promised elevated standards and property value growth, buzzwords that hid her true goal, turning Clearwater Shores into a resort hub for her husband, Nathan Carver's firm. Michael paid little attention, too busy consulting on ship designs from his home office. That changed on March 15th, when a cream-colored envelope arrived, embossed with the HOA's logo. The notice was blunt. Your vessel, docked at 17 Shoreline Drive, violates Code 3.2, Aesthetic Standards for Watercraft. Remove within 30 days or face $200 daily fines. Michael reread it, stunned. Code 3.2? He'd studied the bylaws when he bought the house. No such rule existed. The Legacy was immaculate, its brass fittings gleaming, its sails neatly furled. He walked to his dock, the lake lapping softly, and inspected the boat. Nothing was amiss. Yet, as he scanned neighboring docks, he saw a rusted speedboat and an algae-covered pontoon, untouched by notices. Suspicion grew. Michael called his neighbor, Tom Reynolds, 68, a retired Coast Guard officer with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. Tom confirmed, no notice for his battered skiff. Another neighbor, Sarah Ellis, 42, a tax attorney, reported the same for her neglected jet ski. Why target the Legacy? At the March HOA meeting, Michael raised the issue. Elizabeth, perched at the board table in a tailored blazer, smiled thinly. Mr. Thornton, your boat's age detracts from our modern aesthetic. We're curating a luxury image. When Michael pressed for the rule's origin, Nathan Carver, the treasurer and Elizabeth's husband, cut in. The board has discretion. Comply or pay. The room stirred. Sarah whispered to Michael, "They're up to something." My friend got a similar notice before selling to Nathan's firm. That night, an ex-post appeared. Clearwater HOA targets old boat. New rules? Hashtag HOA tyranny. It got 300 likes, hinting at unrest. Michael, staring at the legacy's silhouette against the moonlit lake, felt a resolve harden. This wasn't about aesthetics, it was personal. By April, Elizabeth's notices escalated. A second letter threatened liens if the legacy wasn't removed by May 1st. Michael, now combing through HOA records, found no mention of Code 3.2 or aesthetic standards for boats. He consulted Sarah, who uncovered a pattern. 5 lakefront owners had sold to Nathan's firm, Carver Lakefront LLC. After HOA harassment, fines for fences, sheds, even flower beds. Each sold below market. Their lots now slated for condos in a Clearwater resort, plan Nathan pitched to investors. Michael's anger grew, but he stayed methodical. He revisited his property deed, a habit from his Navy days of triple-checking specs. Late one night, poring over surveys, he spotted a discrepancy. His 1.2-acre lot included a 50-foot strip of land, the only path connecting Clearwater Shore's main road to the community marina, a U-shaped dock with 15 slips, the HOA's crown jewel. A 1990s survey error had mislabeled it as common area, but county records confirmed. Michael owned it. No easement granted. He called Sarah, who reviewed the documents. "This is a gold mine, Michael," she said. "The HOA's been trespassing for decades. You could block the marina legally." Michael hesitated. Cutting off access would hurt neighbors, not just Elizabeth. But as a third notice arrived, threatening to tow the legacy at his expense, he saw no choice. He hired a surveyor, Linda Harper, who verified the boundary. Armed with proof, Michael devised a plan: assert his rights, not with words, but with steel. He contacted a fencing company, scheduling installation for May 14th, the day before Elizabeth's Marina Gala, a fundraiser for her husband's county council campaign, expecting 200 guests, including local elites. Michael drafted a letter to the HOA, stating his intent to secure his property, but held it for maximum impact. An ex-post by Tom, "Marina access at risk?" Hashtag Clearwater HOA. Got 500 likes, fueling whispers. Elizabeth, unaware, sent a final notice: remove boat by May 10th, or face legal action. Michael filed it in his growing dossier, his Navy precision guiding every step. May 14th, 2024, broke over Clearwater Shores with a clarity that felt almost prophetic. The lake mirrored a cloudless Oregon sky, its surface unbroken except for the gentle ripple from a pair of mallards gliding near Michael Thornton's dock. The Legacy, his father's 28-foot sloop, rocked softly, its Navy hull catching the morning light, a quiet defiance against the HOA's relentless notices. Michael, a 55-year-old retired Navy engineer, had spent weeks preparing for this day. His discovery, that his 1.2-acre lakefront property included the only land access to the community marina, had shifted the battle from defense to offense. Today he'd assert his rights, not with words, but with cedar and steel. At 5:45 a.m., Pacific Fencing's trucks rolled into Michael's driveway, their engines hushed to avoid waking neighbors. Michael had chosen a crew from a neighboring county, wary of local ties to Elizabeth Carver, the HOA president whose real estate empire depended on controlling Clearwater Shores. The foreman, Rachel Nguyen, a wiry woman with 20 years of experience, reviewed the surveyor's markers with Michael. "You sure about this?" she asked, eyeing the path to the marina, a 50-foot strip of gravel and grass that every resident used. Michael nodded, his face set. "It's my land. They left me no choice." By 6:30, the crew was driving 6-foot cedar posts into the ground, each thud echoing like a gavel. The fence's path was precise, following the surveyor's stakes, which cut directly across the marina access. Michael watched from his deck, coffee cooling in his hand, his heart a mix of resolve and unease. Blocking the marina would affect neighbors, good people like Tom Reynolds, the retired Coast Guard officer, or Sarah Ellis, the tax attorney who'd become his ally. But Elizabeth's notices, now threatening to tow the legacy at his expense, had crossed a line. This wasn't just about a boat. It was about his home, his father's memory, and a community under siege. At 7:15, the first neighbors noticed. Martha Cole, 72, a retired librarian with a penchant for early walks, paused, her terrier yapping. "Michael, what's going on?" she called. He walked over, surveyor's report in hand. "I own this path, Martha. The HOA's been using it without permission. I'm securing my property." She frowned, glancing at the legacy. "Because of your boat?" Michael nodded. "They want my land. This is my stand." Martha's eyes softened. "Your dad would be proud." She walked on, but her words lingered, grounding Michael's resolve. By 8 o'clock, the fence's skeleton was unmistakable, posts marching across the path like sentinels. A crowd gathered, retirees, young families, even kids on bikes. Tom Reynolds arrived, thermos in hand, his Coast Guard cap tilted. "Bold move, Thornton," he said, grinning. "Elizabeth's gonna lose her mind." Michael handed him the survey. Tom whistled. "You're sitting on dynamite." He pulled out his phone, posting to X. "Marina Gate begins. Clearwater HOA's path fenced off. Hashtag HOA tyranny." It hit 600 likes in an hour, with comments like, "Get M, Navy guy," and "Who owns the Marina now?" At 8:50, Elizabeth Carver's BMW screeched to a halt, gravel spraying. She stormed toward Michael, her tailored blazer pristine, but her face a mask of fury. "What is this vandalism?" she shouted, gesturing at the workers hammering crossbeams. Michael, standing by a post, kept his voice even. "No vandalism, Miss Carver. I'm securing my private property, as confirmed by county records." He offered the surveyor's report and his deed, but Elizabeth swatted them away. "This is HOA land. You're sabotaging our gala tomorrow." Her voice carried, drawing more neighbors. Michael replied, "The Marina path is mine. No easement exists. Would you like to see the documents?" Elizabeth's eyes narrowed. "You're doing this over that relic of a boat." Michael's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm, a Navy discipline honed over decades. "This is about my rights. Your notices, $200 a day, threats to tow my father's boat, forced my hand." Elizabeth dialed her phone, muttering about lawyers. Sarah Ellis, who joined the crowd, whispered to Michael, "She's rattled." Nathan's gala is her big pitch to investors. The gala, set for May 15th, was Elizabeth's husband Nathan Carver's chance to woo county elites for his council campaign and his resort plan. Without marina access, it was doomed. At 10:20, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up, lights off. Deputy Maria Ruiz, a 15-year veteran with a no-nonsense air, stepped out. Elizabeth rushed over, pointing at the fence. "Arrest him. He's blocking community property." Ruiz raised a hand, then approached Michael. "Mind explaining?" Michael handed her the deed, survey, and a letter he'd sent to the sheriff's office days prior, outlining his plan. Ruiz studied them, her eyes flicking to the stakes. "This checks out," she said. "County records confirm Mr. Thornton's ownership. No easement filed." Turning to Elizabeth, she added, "This is a civil matter. Take it to court." Elizabeth's face drained of color, her phone slipping slightly in her hand. By noon, the fence was nearly complete. 6 feet tall, cedar gleaming, with a heavy steel gate across the marina path. Michael held the only key. Neighbors murmured, some shocked, others nodding approval. Paul and Gwen, 65, a widower who'd faced fines for his vintage Mustang, clapped Michael's shoulder. About time someone stood up. An ex-post by Sarah, Marina Gate, HOA's gala trapped. Hashtag Clearwater Rebel hit 1,500 likes, with memes of a padlocked marina captioned, "Elizabeth's Empire Locked Out." The crowd dispersed, but the air buzzed with anticipation. Tomorrow's gala, expecting 200 guests, would be a logistical nightmare. VIPs stranded unless they arrived by boat. That afternoon, Nathan Carver arrived, his suit rumpled, his usual charm replaced by panic. "Michael, let's talk," he said, glancing at the gate. "Drop the boat fines, no problem. Just open this for tomorrow." Michael, leaning against his dock, shook his head. "This isn't about fines, Nathan. It's about your wife targeting my home for your resort plan." Nathan's eyes widened, but he recovered. "That's absurd. Let's negotiate." Michael held firm. "Acknowledge my ownership in writing, rescind all notices, and we'll talk easements after your gala." Nathan hesitated, then left, muttering about lawyers. By evening, Elizabeth sent a delegation. Nathan, board member Karen Lee, a soft-spoken accountant, and Judge Harold Baxter, a gala guest. They stood in Michael's living room, the legacy visible through the window. Michael laid out his dossier, 3 HOA notices, the survey, and Sarah's research on Carver Lakefront LLC's 5 lakefront purchases, all after similar fines. "You wanted my land," Michael said, voice steady. "I'm protecting it." Judge Baxter, brow furrowed, suggested a temporary unlock for the gala, citing its charity angle. Michael agreed, but only with a signed HOA letter admitting his ownership and voiding the legacy fines. Elizabeth, lips tight, signed, her pen scraping the paper like a blade. As they left, Tom posted on X, "Marina Gate victory. HOA bows to Navy vet. Hashtag Clearwater rises." It hit 2,000 likes, with comments like, "Lock the tyrants out." Michael stood on his dock, the legacy's mast casting a shadow. He'd won the first battle, but Elizabeth's gala was just the opening salvo. The real fight, for Clearwater Shore's soul, was coming. The morning of May 15, 2024, was tense in Clearwater Shores. The fence stood like a silent judge, its locked gate barring the marina where Elizabeth Carver's gala was set to unfold. Caterers, musicians, and decorators, expecting to set up via the path, milled about, confused. Elizabeth, in a silk dress and forced smile, ferried staff by boat from a neighbor's dock, but the optics were disastrous. Guests, including county councilors and developers, would face the same hurdle. An ex-post by a local reporter, "Clearwater Gala Chaos, Marina Locked. Hashtag MarinaGate." Hit 3,000 likes, with memes of Elizabeth rowing VIPs captioned, "HOA Queen's Titanic." Michael attended the gala briefly, a strategic move to gauge reactions. The marina, usually a jewel with its 15 slips and cedar pavilion, looked strained, boats overcrowded, guests whispering about the fence. Nathan Carver, sweating through his speech about community progress, avoided Michael's gaze. Investors, key to his Clearwater resort plan, exchanged skeptical looks. Michael left early, his dossier heavier with photos of the gala's disarray. Back home, he prepared for the real event, an emergency community meeting at 7 p.m., announced via flyers and X by Tom Reynolds. By 6:30, Michael's backyard was packed, 70 residents on folding chairs, facing the lake where the legacy floated, a symbol of defiance. Tom, in his Coast Guard cap, set up a projector. Sarah Ellis, laptop ready, stood beside Michael, whose dossier now spanned 80 pages. HOA notices, property records, LLC purchases, and financial discrepancies. The crowd, a mix of retirees like Martha Cole, young parents like the Wilsons, and widowers like Paul and Gwen, buzzed with anticipation. An X thread, "Clearwater HOA's land grab exposed. Hashtag MarinaGate," posted by Sarah, was climbing to 4,000 likes. Michael began, voice steady but weighted with emotion. "This started with my father's boat, but it's bigger than me. The HOA, led by Elizabeth and Nathan Carver, has targeted us to seize our homes for a resort empire." He walked through the dossier, projecting documents. The survey showed his ownership of the marina path, unchallenged by easements. The notices, 3, escalating to tow threats, proved selective enforcement, as Tom's skiff and Sarah's jet ski went untouched. Sarah's research was damning. Carver Lakefront LLC, Nathan's firm, owned 6 lakefront lots, bought at 20% below market after HOA fines drove sales. Financial records, leaked by Karen Lee, showed $30,000 in HOA funds diverted to marina enhancements tied to Nathan's resort. Gasps rippled. Martha Cole, clutching her shawl, stood. "They fined me $2,000 for my vegetable garden last year. I nearly sold my home, my husband's dream." Her voice cracked, stirring the crowd. Paul and Gwen shared next, $5,000 in fines for my Mustang, parked in my own driveway. I thought I was alone. Rebecca Wilson, a single mom, fought tears. "They fined me $1,500 for my kids' bikes left out overnight. I'm barely making ends meet." Each story fueled anger, the crowd realizing their shared suffering wasn't random, it was a playbook. Karen Lee, the HOA secretary, stood, her hands trembling. "I questioned Elizabeth's spending, $10,000 for gala catering, $20,000 for consulting with no bids. She sidelined me. She produced bank statements showing transfers to Nathan's LLC, labeled community projects. The projector flashed a 2023 email from Elizabeth to Nathan. Thornton's lot is key. Push harder. The crowd roared, some shouting, resign. An ex-post by Paul, HOA's secret resort plan. Hashtag Clearwater Rises hit 5,000 likes with memes of Nathan's suit as a land grabber's uniform. Tom took the floor, his Coast Guard authority commanding silence. This isn't governance, it's theft. I move for a no-confidence vote against Elizabeth and Nathan. Sarah seconded, and hands shot up, 65 for, 3 against. Elizabeth, who'd arrived late with Nathan, stood frozen, her silk dress out of place among the crowd's jeans and flannels. Nathan tried to interrupt. This is slander. But Martha snapped, sit down, Carver. The crowd cheered, a rare fire in her eyes. An interim board was elected. Tom as president, Sarah as vice president, Martha as treasurer, and 2 others, Paul and a teacher, Emily Chin. Their first act, rescind all pending fines from Michael's boat to Martha's garden. Their second, freeze HOA accounts for an independent audit, led by a Portland firm Sarah recommended. Michael offered to negotiate a Marina easement, but only after the audit confirmed no further fraud. Elizabeth, humiliated, stormed out, Nathan trailing. An ex-post, Clearwater ousts HOA tyrants. Hashtag MarinaGate hit 6,000 likes with a meme of the legacy captioned, the boat that broke the HOA. That night, Michael sat on his dock, the legacy's lines creaking. The community's rage had validated his fight, but Elizabeth's silence worried him. Bullies don't quit easily. The audit, the interim board, and the X-Storm were weapons, but the war wasn't over. Clearwater Shores was waking up, and Michael was its reluctant general. July 2024 marked a new dawn for Clearwater Shores. The interim board, led by Tom Reynolds, moved swiftly. The audit, completed by June 15th, was a bombshell. $48,000 in HOA funds misappropriated over 3 years, funneled to Nathan Carver's Carver Lakefront LLC for consulting, marina upgrades, and gala expenses. All without board votes. Elizabeth had forged signatures on 2 checks, a felony. The findings, presented at a June 20th meeting, drew 80 residents, their anger now a focused resolve. An ex-post, Clearwater HOA's $48,000 theft. Hashtag MarinaGate hit 8,000 likes with memes of Elizabeth's blazer as a thief's cape. The board filed a civil lawsuit to recover the funds, backed by 75% of residents. Sarah Ellis, leveraging her tax law contacts, secured a pro bono attorney, Clara Nguyen, who specialized in HOA fraud. Clara also reported Elizabeth to Oregon's real estate agency, triggering a license review. Nathan faced a state bar probe for ethics violations, his law firm distancing itself. By July 1st, their lakefront home was listed, selling at a $150,000 loss to a family of teachers, the Morrisons, who joined the community sailing club. Michael's fence remained, a cedar monument to the fight, but he opened the gate daily, a gesture of goodwill. On June 25th, he signed a marina easement, $1 a year for HOA access, with clauses protecting his property rights in the legacy's dock. The agreement, drafted by Sarah, was approved by 90% of residents, a testament to trust rebuilt. The legacy became a community hub, Michael teaching kids to sail, their laughter echoing across the lake. Martha Cole, now treasurer, planted a new garden, free of fines. Paul Nguyen's Mustang gleamed in his driveway, unchallenged. Elizabeth fought back, filing a $200,000 defamation lawsuit against Michael and the interim board, claiming false accusations damaged her reputation. The case, heard in August 2024, was a rout. Clara presented the audit, Karen's bank statements, and Michael's dossier, now 100 pages. Neighbors testified, Martha on her garden, Paul on his car, Rebecca on her bikes. The judge, a stern woman named Evelyn Holt, dismissed the suit, ordering Elizabeth to pay $25,000 in legal fees. Her real estate license was revoked, Nathan's firm collapsed, and their LLC declared bankruptcy. An ex-post, Clearwater crushes HOA lawsuit. Hashtag MarinaGate hit 10,000 likes with memes of Elizabeth's forged checks as jailbait. Clearwater Shores celebrated on July 4th with a block party, the biggest in years. The marina overflowed. 300 residents, a bluegrass band, BBQ smoking ribs, and kids racing with kites. The legacy led a boat parade, its new sales funded by neighbors billowing. Tom gave a speech, toasting Michael to the man who fenced a marina and freed a community. Cheers erupted, Martha crowning Michael Admiral of Clearwater. An ex-post, Clearwater's Freedom Fest. Hashtag MarinaGate hit 12,000 likes, with a video of the parade captioned, "The lake is ours." The HOA rewrote its bylaws, mandating resident votes for rules, transparent budgets, and term limits. A new board, elected in September with 95% turnout, included Sarah, Emily, and a retiree, George Patel. They launched a community fund for dock repairs and scholarships, replacing Elizabeth's vanity projects. The marina hosted weekly cookouts, sailing regattas, and a fall concert, its pavilion packed. Property values rose 15%, not from resorts, but from Clearwater Shore's reputation as a community that fought and won. Elizabeth and Nathan fled to Seattle, their names toxic. Ex-posts followed. HOA Queen exiled. Hashtag Clearwater rises, with 9,000 likes and memes of their BMW as a getaway car. Their former home, now the Morrisons, flew an American flag beside a sailing pennant. Michael, sanding the Legacy's deck, felt his father's presence in the lake's breeze. The boat wasn't just a relic, it was a beacon, guiding Clearwater Shores to a future where no clipboard could steal their peace. A year later, May 2025, Michael stood at his dock, teaching a 10-year-old neighbor, Lily Morrison, to tie a bowline knot. The Legacy gleamed, its woodwork flawless. Across the lake, the marina buzzed with a regatta, residents cheering. Martha's garden bloomed, Paul's Mustang roared at a car show, and Sarah's new bylaws were a model for Oregon HOAs. An ex-post, Clearwater Shores, 1 year free. Hashtag MarinaGate hit 15,000 likes, a testament to a community reborn. Michael looked at Lily, her eyes bright with the same wonder he'd felt at her age, sailing with his dad. The Legacy had saved more than a dock. It had saved a home, a memory, and a neighborhood soul. That's the story of how Michael Thornton, a Navy vet with a 40-year-old sailboat, took on a corrupt HOA and saved Clearwater Shores. From a single notice to a fence that stopped a gala, from ex-posts that sparked a rebellion to a community that reclaimed its soul, this is what happens when you stand for your legacy. HOA Tyrant Takedowns is proud to share these stories, real people, real rights, real victories. Clearwater Shores thrives today, with open docks, fair rules, and a marina buzzing with life. The Legacy sails on, a symbol of Michael's fight. What's your HOA battle? Comment below. We read every story, and yours could be next. Check our X for MarinaGate memes or join the thread at hashtag Clearwater Rises. Like, subscribe, and share to keep HOA tyrants on notice. Next week, Retirees Flagpole fights HOA. You won't believe the twist. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes, the smallest boat casts the biggest wake.